Hello everyone and welcome back to Make Believe, where we're playing World and Economica. Last time Yoshihara had a truce with Hagana as they cleaned up the living room and then started having dinner with Lisa as she talked to them about what they did their day. And as Yoshihara was about to talk about the debt collector incident, Hagana stopped him. So let's see how that's gonna unfold now, shall we? I didn't strike back immediately, not because I thought Lisa would get angry, but because I had no idea what the heck was going on. Really, Yoshihara, you have no idea why she does not want you to say that, huh? Hey, Hagana, what are you doing? Lisa asked a question, but Hagana turned away and stayed silent. What, is she a kid? That type of behavior really makes her seem like a stubborn brat. While rubbing my shins, I was wondering whether she didn't want me to talk about it. I couldn't figure out exactly what would make her want to avoid that at all costs. Really? Come on, Yoshihara, you're smarter than that. What? So, something did happen? Ow, well, there was that. I was about to begin, Hagana glared at me. However, Lisa held Hagana back with her arms. And with that, Hagana looked like she was about to cry. I was surprised that Hagana would be so against my telling the story, but it appeared Lisa wasn't so. Yeah, Lisa wants to figure out what it is, while Hagana wants not for Lisa specifically to know. So of course the reaction makes sense. I could see it from Hagana's expression. With a light sigh, Lisa looked at me with a tired expression. Mr. Toyama came, I guess. Toyama? I guess she's familiar with it. She didn't come here to collect on a debt. Hagana tried her best to stop Lisa, but once those words came out, the strength left her as if the end of the world had come. Yep, Lisa figured it out. She sure did. And did you know, I was about to detail the ruckus that happened after I got back to the church. But then my eyes met Hagana's. Oh, even the lighting changed just to focus on her. Those eyes were filled with supplication. Yeah, something that you're completely avoiding. Like, you notice it and you're still like, oh yeah, the debt collector came and let me tell you what happened. Like, and you took notice of Hagana as well. You're just choosing to ignore it. I was more than a little surprised at such a pompous egotist being able to make such a face. Making Toyama fly off the walls had probably happened once or twice before, and I don't think Lisa had condoned such behavior. My heart wasn't so shriveled as to totally rule out staying quiet after seeing such a humble entreaty from Hagana. Really? I wouldn't guess that considering how much you set up, you know? And did I know what? I took the receipt from my pocket and handed it to the expectant Lisa. I paid off the interest for you, so pay me back later. Staring for a few seconds at the 200 mil receipt she set on the table, Lisa looked at me with a sigh. So now I owe you now instead. So now I owe you now instead. Why two nows? I think one would be enough. Much better than that, Baldy, right? Lisa knew she shouldn't laugh, but couldn't hold back. She then took the receipt. Well, Mr. Toyama also has a hard time, you know. Well, he does look kinda unfortunate. Hey! Yeah, see, they're enjoying. That's better. I shrugged unnaturally at Lisa's remark and worked on the rest of the stir fry. I knew she had put 200 moves into the cabinet, but when I looked at Lisa's face when she held the receipt, I didn't feel like telling her to get that out. Yeah, the 200 that you gave her for your rent. And couldn't those 200 she owes you consider Oh, so now you can stay another 20 days here? It's kind of like you're paying in advance? Or do you really just expect to stay here for just 20 days and then you're gonna leave? And we're back. We're back to having dinner with everyone. I thought maybe I did something stupid, but if the time came, I could always just ask her to nullify the rent. Yeah, exactly. I stuffed my stomach full of pork and peppers and embellished during my next words. Well, just pay me back when you can. I also owe some favors too. Well, if you could put things more appropriately, you'd probably be popular with the girls, you know? Huh. I snickered, drank my tea. I was even a little ashamed of myself for wondering if that's what I was missing. Huh, really? That's a strange twist. I'll pay you back soon. Well, how soon will depend on that. Lisa chuckled weakly, and Hagana was definitely glaring at me after seeing Lisa's expression. She probably thought that I didn't deserve any thanks, but reason didn't really fly with this girl. Yeah, he did help you out, Hagana. Like, I'll give him that much. He does deserve thanks for that situation. Thanks for the dinner. I forgot what the Japanese expression for that is. There's itadakimasu that you say before eating, and then there's something you say after eating, but I do not remember it right now. I paid no heed to Hagana, got up from my chair, and went back to my room. But this is not Japan, this is the mill, so it's not here nor there. After dark, I continued to watch the news and read up on stocks, puzzling over my avenue of attack for tomorrow when there was a knock on my door. That's right, it's still Sunday. All this happened in a single day. He went to Central City, Newton City, fought off the debt collector, had the dinner with Lisa and Hagana. They cleaned up the living room where he went out to get the flowers as well before that. So yeah, a lot happened on this Sunday. And then Monday he's gonna go back to stock trading. But there's a knock on the door. I figure it must be Lisa, since she actually go to do the proper thing. As expected, her voice came through the door. Are you asleep? I'm not a grade schooler, you know. Well, aren't you kinda like one? Well, I'd prefer to look that way from the point of view of an auntie like you. What? Aunt? So, what's up? I got a surprising amount of reaction. I figured I managed to pay her back for all the time she treated me like a kid. I see, so since she treats you like a kid, you're gonna treat her like she's older. Lisa was about to say something, but muttered it to herself and stated her business. Got time to come up here? What? Lisa answered me after looking over at the living room. At least while Hagana's in the bath. Well, okay, I guess. Wait a second. I closed my computer, put it into password lock sleep mode, and headed out into the hallway. Wouldn't want Hagana to look at his computer while he was away, right? You're surprisingly methodical. A man needs his share of secrets to survive. Right. Lisa walked out, and I followed her. Using the unreliable light from the diode lamp to guide our way, we headed up the steep stairs. The courtyard I saw during the day was lit up by light pouring out of Lisa's room. I see, so we're out. No, we're close to outside, but we decided to go to her room instead. Lisa invited me into her room. What left me speechless wasn't that her room was all pink and girly. In fact, if that were the case, I wouldn't just laugh my head off before I'd feel any surprise. Lisa's room was a simple room. Yeah, I expect her to have a simple room. Perhaps a little more crowded than mine, and it came with a bed and a desk. Well, all we see is a shelf. Lots and lots of books, I'm guessing. There was a good reason for the cramped feeling, though. There were real books lined up against one of the walls. Ooh, a wall with just books? Ooh, that sounds amazing. Are these The real thing? That's right. They fetch half the price too. Lisa pulled out a chair for me. And then she opened a drawer and took out a small bottle. And I guess we're not gonna see the room then. Ah, can you drink? How? For a second, I couldn't figure out who this Hal was until I quickly realized it was me. Perhaps it caught me by surprise, but it felt kind of odd and tingly. Yeah, he's not used to being called Hal because Yoshiharu in the Haru part, right? Then again, I don't know if she actually knows his actual name. I don't remember. I don't think she does. You mean alcohol? Or perhaps you never had any? I'm not some loser. Oh, here we go again. Knows truly a loser when they proclaim that. Yup. Yup, that sounds about right. Lisa was really good at making people dance on her palm. Or perhaps I really was a kid after all. A bit of both, I'd say. Well, you have some mature things about you, and you're certainly making more money than a lot of people. You do have some kid attitudes in you. Well, gotta try it to really know it. He then poured some into a cheap-looking silvery cup and handed it to me. It was an amber liquid, and the whiff I had was quite smoky. Don't drink it all in one gulp. I thought I was being treated like a kid again, and was about to drink it all down to show her. But she managed to slip some words in before that happened. Oh my god. Yashari, that's just being very childish behavior. I like you to savor the flavor. This one was truly underhanded. Oh, at least she's able to deal with you. With a sulking face, I gave it a taste and was on the verge of coughing. Oh, there we go. We have Lisa in front of the shelf. Well, what did you want to talk about? Or did you just want to booze me up? Well, it's not really that. There was something else I wanted to talk about today. Today? Yep. When Mr. Toyama came today, what really happened? Lisa switched the cup in front of her and stared down at it. As a daughter, Lisa looked back up and continued. Haganas really can't keep a poker face about things, and well, you're kind of the same. Yeah, like, there clearly something more happened when the debt collector came. Mr. Toyama, right? Like, both of them clearly were hiding something. Quiet. But I'm really happy that you covered for her. I guess shaking hands isn't really needed to make up. Given the smile on Lisa's face as she said this, I can only begrudgingly accept that I was also happy about it. Yeah, see. Sorta see a sad smile over here. But yeah, see? You don't always need to fight fire with fire. Sometimes you can just give the hand of peace and treaty. And perhaps they'll accept it, and the conflict will be over, or at least dwindle down. However, I couldn't just candidly say yes to her. Knowing full well that I was being childish again, I lowered my voice as much as possible to give my reply. Oh, at least you're acknowledging that you're being childish a couple of times, Ichiharu. That's some level of progress. Not even I'm that petty-minded. Yep. I also believe you weren't. Lisa sipped some liquor and swallowed it down gently. When I had drunk some, I felt like someone had shoved a smokestack in my mouth. The way Lisa drank it was very fitting. This made Lisa irrefutably look like an adult, and me look like a child. I guess. I mean, some people can't take their alcohol. Like, some people don't like alcohol either. I'm not a fan of beer, but I like some wine, for example. However, I don't think Lisa was doing that to look like an adult or anything. Rather, it appears she might have been using it to loosen her lips. Yeah, I can see that, something along those lines. So, what happened? I don't know the details, since I came in halfway. Okay, but, well, I can imagine what happened. When I returned, there was a big commotion. The old geezer was livid, throwing sofas and stuff around on a rampage. And well, that girl was like her usual self. Hagana. Hagana was like her usual self. Totally angry and belligerent while at the same time trembling. Sheesh. So then what happened? And then I instantly thought it was some burglar. I smacked him down, restrained him, and shut him up. And while I was listening to the accounts of what happened, I realized that this old guy was probably not at fault. Released him and then paid off the interest. That's all. Lisa was staring at the cup for a second, took another drink as if to drink away a sigh, and then asked me, "So, what about the lilies?" Oh, she recognized the lilies. Oh, wow. Lilies? Oh, that girl, Agana, told me that there had to be 7, so I got some for her. Wait, how do you know that? Of course I know. Where do you think the laundry gets hung out to dry? Ah. So she saw there were some missing out there, and she figured it out. Lisa rolled her eyes while asking me that. Oh, yeah. I guess they're by the garden with a flower bed on the 3rd level. Furthermore, the ones in the vase were something given to me, and the ones in the flower bed were the ones I grew. I was really depressed that the 2 of them had been uprooted. The 2 of them. But when I came back down to the living room and saw the dirt-laden roots in the garbage and the smooch lilies thrown in with them together, well, let's say you don't have to be an Einstein to figure out kind of what happened. Wow, really, you guys left in the trash. That's not a very good hiding spot. You guys do not know how to hide your dirty work. Brilliant deduction, but could I ask something? What? Why would Hagana want to hide this incident from you? Not like it was the first time Hagana had looked down on people and pissed them off. Besides, this Mr. Toyama, or what is his face, didn't appear to be some elite guest whom you shouldn't upset at any cost. However, Hagana did everything she could to hide the incident. Or perhaps she was overly concerned about the thing with the lilies and tried to hide everything? While I was pondering such things, Lisa slowly wiped her lips with the liquor. She thinks the debt was her fault. Oh? Well, the fog lifted on something rather unexpected, so that's why she does not want to bother Lisa about the debt collecting. Well, I guess I was originally a fault, not fault. I found a typo. I had lost a book I borrowed from the university. I guess it did look like something that belonged in a trash heap, so perhaps that child threw it away. However, even I wasn't totally sure. Besides, I was kinda sloppy with it as well, so of course I couldn't really blame her if it were the case. But she was really set in her beliefs and was really upset with that incident. Oh yeah, I can totally see that. If you accidentally threw a book away, I cannot even imagine that being the case whatsoever, throwing a book away, but let's skip over the fact. But imagine you threw an item away and then you figure out that, oh, somebody else had borrowed that item that you threw away and now they owe money. Yeah, you're gonna feel guilty. So yeah, I can totally understand Hagen aside from this. I see, but well, you mentioned squared away using some money, right? If you put it that way, it saves me a lot of talking. But it wasn't just a small amount of money, and since we were poor, we had to borrow the money to pay the fine. The banks wouldn't even give us a light of day, so the only people who'd lend us money were locals like Mr. Toyama. He's a good guy. He didn't even ask for collateral when lending us the money. Was he an idiot? Interest was pretty low too. What? The interest wasn't that low. Different perspectives. They are poor? Oh yeah, the interest is not that low. Yoshihara was just making bank with the stocks. Oh yeah, the interest was really low. Don't be an idiot. It was quite low. Deposit interest rate at the bank started at around 3%, right? Just storing at the bank earned you 3% interest. So lending money to some penniless person at 6% with no collateral must have been a sure sign of madness. Look at him. I didn't know. Aren't you an adult? Lisa smiled bitterly at my exasperated exclamation and just shrugged. So? Hagana also knew that guy was an idiot. Well, how does that turn into a reason to hide the scuffle from you? The dots aren't connecting for me. Lisa chuckled faintly at my words. For a second there, I thought she was trying to dodge the question, so I started to talk again. However, I realized that wasn't the case and clamped my mouth shut. Yeah, sometimes you just gotta listen up, Yoshihara. Lisa's smile was quite sad. What did I say? A sad smile. This was the first time I realized that people can laugh with such a sad face. Yeah, laughter isn't always just having fun. Sometimes just hiding other feelings too. I really think I can trust you, how? Huh? What's with you all of a sudden? I'm not trying to flatter you. You can somewhat figure out what people are really like inside after seeing their various aspects. You try to act all mean and stuff, but you are a really good kid instead. Yep. I mean, considering he did explain to us in the beginning, yeah, we could have figured out that quite fast as well. I couldn't get angry at Lisa Seal's face, even while I was thinking the whole time that she was making fun of me. She's not making fun of you, Yoshihara. Come on. Lighten up. And that's what I'm gonna tell you. Got it? Lisa clung onto the silver-colored cup in her hand as if her life depended on it. I almost got really angry at her for that before. That? Got angry at her for Hagana intentionally trying to piss off Mr. Toyama. I guess that really was the case. Yeah, she was not letting light on Mr. Toyama despite him being the right there. Yep. She would try her best to anger him when I wasn't looking. And furthermore, as you said, she was actually afraid. I recounted my memory of Hagana defiantly yelling angry with her body flush against the wall, the corners of her eyes totally red and her hands trembling. Yep, like I said, we saw that when we got back to the house. You know the reason for that? Nope. Well, even I didn't know at first. However, when I yelled at her the first time for it, she said this. She said, even if you had no money to pay it back, everything would be solved if you just shipped me off, right? Oh, that level of guilt, huh? Wait, what? I guess normally you wouldn't know what that was all about. However, I immediately realized what she meant. When I was back on Earth, such stories were a dime a dozen. Her reply came as she stared blankly and deeply into her cup. I was assaulted by the premonition of something even more that I could totally hate. Something worse than dog crap. She wouldn't tell me her personal story, so this is all just conjecture. But I came to the conviction that she was bought with money. You can't be. Before I could finish my sentence, the roots of my tongue had frozen completely solid. Many of the folks from my village came from the darkest corner of the earth. There were a lot of cheerful dudes, but I had the feeling they were trying to make up for something. They said there were places on Earth that people from more affluent countries would overlook. Even such places were in sad countries. The lunar metropolis was a power contraption to extract money from Earth. It was a tool to make money using various methods. So it wouldn't be strange if there existed things like the ones they talked about. In fact, it would be odd if there weren't. So, adopting a talented child would be a rare occurrence, right? Even if the adopter doesn't feel that way, it is quite possible for the adopted to feel that he/she had been bought. Curious enough, I just finished watching a new anime that started this season. That's Taisho Maiden Fairy Tale, I think it's called. And there's a girl that basically got sold off to pay a debt to become the future wife of the protagonist. So yeah, it actually fits into the situation, the story they're talking about. What a surprise. Of course, there are such tragedies when children are being bought and sold. Lisa Stone didn't sound like she was rambling about the matter. While I consider Lisa quite an annoying woman, I also felt she was someone whose feet were firmly planted on the ground. Lisa probably investigated the matter herself. Hagana's math talents are truly marvelous. After all, she got full marks on the entrance exam for Lunar City University. She'd definitely be able to get a scholarship to the point of having even clothing, food, and lodging being covered by the university. Hagana had to be looking towards that, but she'd definitely not say a word of it. Guess what she's been the most interested in right now? Making money. Yup, you're just trying to make the money to cover for everything. And hey, what do you know? Your heart is also focused on making money. Huh. A bad taste spread through my mouth. Yup, reminds you of your certain someone? Even if I wanted to have my own beliefs about a person while not knowing anything about that person, having the truth laid bare before me would only naturally encourage this reaction. I think she takes it out on others because of all the pain she endured. She puts all her strength in enduring her pain. She wouldn't be able to control herself. But debt is just a debt. It's not like you couldn't pay it back, right? It's not like the girl's need to sell herself. Not being able to understand exactly what it meant to sell oneself, I felt like it said something quite stupid. Yes, quite heavy. But Hagana was apparently quite talented, and she didn't look bad either. When push comes to shove, that method of selling would work. That's right. That's what I wanted to say, but Lisa had the big sigh and continued drinking. After gulping down one, she roughly poured herself some more. I'll pay it back. Actually, even right now. Oh, what? I look at Lisa in amazement, and then I followed up my exclamation. You're gonna sell yourself? Oh my god, you're horror. Just think before you talk. Lisa spilled out her liquor and started coughing. Gross. Yeesh, don't say such bizarre things. Well, that's kind of how the conversation flowed. Man, well, probably wasn't too far off the mark. Oh, wait, huh? I do have things to sell. However, they're pretty much a part of me, so I was hesitant selling them. Oh, don't tell me the books. Oh no, don't do that. Lisa looked up and stared off into space, like some precocious child observing the stars for the first time. However, what she was staring at wasn't the far-off nebula, but rather something closer. The shelves? The bookshelves. Oh, yep, no, don't do that. Don't. After I noticed what she was looking at, she sighed and continued. It's like you're running away from not wanting to work. I've been trying to avoid the problem. If I sold a few of the books lining these shelves, I'd be able to pay back the loan. Okay, it's not the same thing, but because he's not exactly running away from work, he's just working a different method. A more unsafe, like higher risk, higher reward method. So it's not the same thing, but he's not telling it. Are they really that awesome? Of course, books are awesome. As time passes, the amount of books can increase. They can only decrease, and in that sense, they're precious. A part of the font of human knowledge rests upon these books. And so in that sense, they are awesome. But stop copying me. But it's not like life would be harder without them. And so, in that sense, they aren't that great. But selling them would feel like ripping out a part of my own body. I can totally understand that. Yep. I still have no clue what you're spouting. Besides, if you sold them, couldn't you just buy them again later? My problems would be a lot simpler if that were the case. You can't buy them again? Books like these aren't ones you find anywhere. And they're not books that everyone's going to want. Thus, people who want them are fanatic about them. And once they get their hands on them, it's very rare they want to get rid of them. Even on Earth, only a few books of this type exchange hands per year, probably. Therefore, if I put this up for sale, I definitely find a buyer, but there's a very good chance I'll never get them back again. Yeah, I can understand. A different example would be like with manga, like there's some volumes I cannot find anywhere. So it's kind of hard to complete some of the manga series I have. Because, yeah, some people just collected the existing ones, are not going to sell them, and they're not making any more. So it's a similar situation. It's not like I'm waiting for them to appreciate and value to sell them. They're more like friends and comrades to me, if you get my meaning. Yep, I totally understand you, Lisa. I felt something from the glimpse Lisa threw at me. Putting comrades up for sale will definitely yield buyers, but once your comrades are sold, you never get them back. And that's why I've been dragging my feet. If I found an adult dragging their feet on doing something they should be doing, I'd totally want to kick their butt and split on them. However, even with those beliefs, I couldn't bring myself to thinking that in front of Lisa. I could see that Lisa really loved those books like real people who were friends and comrades. The sight of her standing in front of the bookcase, leaning on the bed and speaking absent-mindedly, gave the impression of a girl at her wit's end. And that wasn't something shameful. If this was something that would drive even Lisa to her wit's end, then it must be truly something formidable. Oh my god, why am I getting tongue twisted all of a sudden? And that must be, without a doubt, her love for books. Well, I guess you just have to pay it back bit by bit. Well, you're right, that's the case, but as if to proclaim her return to reality, she'll add on an adult yet bitter smile and polish off the rest of the liquor in her cup easily. How did I get tongue twisted on cup? And you're the same, aren't you? In 20 days, I'll have you find some ways to make money. In 20 days, huh? Revealing no signs about my stock trading, I replied sulkily. Yeah, she has no idea. Well, even though he just popped up 400 moles in such a short period. Well, as you can see, I'm really in no position to lecture you. However, I do have one thing to say. Yeah? That stuff about Hagana. Oh, yeah. I have a wish to ask of you. What, like, could you please get along with her because of her sad predicament? Lisa kept mimicking me so much that I decided to mimic her in return. I thought she'd get mad, but getting such moral education stuff pushed on me made me kinda mad too, so we were even. This was a meal after all. What does that have to do with anything? Why would you consider loading yourself with baggage if you're going to be flying up? Oh, poor Yoshihara. There's so much more things that you don't know. You got it. However, Lisa didn't get angry. Instead, she poured herself some more liquor and wet her lips with it. Actually, it's a little different from wanting you to get along with her. It's possible for people to have disagreements, right? I think Hagana and I are like that. That's probably the case. However, when Hagana is glaring down at you, you stop instantly doing things in response to intentionally upset her, right? Yeah, before he was doing things to intentionally anger her even more. But now he's lowering down that. You got a point there. That's good enough. What I want you to do is to acknowledge her. Knowledge? That's an interesting way to put it. Yep. People exist and are such ephemeral things. Wasn't there that thing from the old Fae legends? That the Fae can continue to exist as long as people believe in their existence? Once people forgot about them, then they couldn't continue to exist. Haven't you heard about something similar to that? Yeah, I heard that many times in stories, especially like mythical beings act like gods and stuff. Like, as long as there are people that believe in them, they exist. Unfortunately, no. There were tales like that, and it's not like just limited to Fae. Anyone would be happy if they got complimented, and having someone worry about you allows you to believe that you're a meaningful existence to them. People can think of themselves as being human if they're all alone. Ooh, that is such a big line. Like, such a heavy line. No way. It's true. There's been examples on Earth where someone grew up with dogs would only think of themselves as dogs. To acknowledge someone should give a proper response to them, even if that were to be one of disgust. Lisa took a brief breath and stared at me. It became a bit harder for me to breathe. Lisa had always been caring to me. Deciding to answer her pointless questions was in part because she respected me. I don't mind if you guys have arguments, and I don't think you guys are such opposites either. What? Yeah, right. Well, and the one thing I would ask of you most is... Lisa cut off my words, stood up from the bed, and held my hands. Don't ignore her. She has lost all faith in her self-worth. It can't be healthy for someone to think that selling herself would be the way to pay back a debt. I want to say that everyone's equal before the Lord. But before that, I want her to never forget that she's a human being and not just some item. Ooh, this became such a heavy conversation. I mean, it did have some heavy topics before, but now it's solidified it. I know that's the moon, and that trend here is that anything can be turned to money is worthless. But those last words scared my heart. Like, yeah, I'm sure Lisa saw through my expression of pain in that moment. Lisa looked at me and chuckled lightly. I tried to hide my embarrassment and thought about lashing back in anger, but it didn't help. Since at that moment, Lisa embraced me softly. Oh, wow. I was gonna use that other image of her with the bookshelf behind her thumbnail, but now I don't know anymore. I mean, that was the main part of the conversation, so maybe still. Well, it doesn't matter the discussion because you guys are gonna see the thumbnail beforehand. Hal, you have a good sense of self, and that was definitely because of your parents. Yeah, right. My parents, the way they taught were probably totally different, but I believe they must have said things to you to the point where you got sick of it. I couldn't object because she got it precisely. After all, I left the village because my freaking parents' unmovable convictions made me want to puke. However, that is in itself that marvelous mark of love. Since if they didn't care about you, they wouldn't do that. If you didn't have those freaking annoying parents, it would have been very hard to collect their thoughts, right? I made a clearly bitter face at being mimicked again, and Lisa chuckled after noticing it. Indirectly, Lisa's breathing lightly brushed my right ear. It was a ticklish sensation that made me sleepy. I sheltered those who run away from home with no place to go because I believe they need someone to acknowledge them. In any case, the moon's a busy place, and a bustling and stimulating place like you said. So most people have no time to care about others, right? But I received the Lord's teaching, so I feel like I'd be able to do something like that. I have some newfound respect for Lisa, and I read held Lisa in high regard. Lisa stepped back and picked up the cup I was holding with the liquor in it. What do you think? She posed me the question then. I totally salute someone who'd be able to refuse at this point. Like, yeah, it's hard to say no at this point. However, much my chagrin, never seen that one in my life. I didn't understand what Lisa was trying to get across. I didn't want to admit that those annoying parents loved me, even if I were on my deathbed. Well, what exaggeration. But I felt like I was able to figure out what I needed to succeed on the mill because of them. It was kind of like teaching me what not to do. True. And besides, even if their way of thinking was different, it was true that what I learned from those guys in the village helped me many a time. Yeah, many times you're mentioning like things you learned from somebody. Even some of the people in the village too. Concern? One's value as a human? The story still felt fishy to me, but at least it seemed like Hagana had been leading such a happy life. Thus, at least being a bit kinder to her wasn't all that bad. Besides, whether I argued with her or whatever, as long as I didn't ignore her, it would be fine. I looked back at Lisa and replied woodenly, I get it. And at that moment, Lisa beamed a warm smile. Thank you. Well, let's keep what we talk about today a secret, okay? And alcohol seems to be a bit too early for you, so don't drink it while I'm not here, okay? Yeah, I also thought it was early, so I was surprised when you offered him. Instead of complaining about her nagging, I resorted to spitting out my breath as if I were clicking my tongue. I realized it was something childish that would get laughed at by Lisa, but I had no choice. Well, I was kind of disappointed after she said thanks to me, and it would have been bad if she found out what I was thinking. I totally thought that she'd hug me again. Crap. Stop it. I'm being an idiot. Good night. Her words as she closed the door stuck with me for some time. Well, and I think this is a good stopping point. So let's go back. And yeah, we learned a lot about Hagana and even some about Lisa. And yeah, this was a very impactful episode. So I wonder what's gonna happen the next day. And how Yoshihara is gonna interact with Hagana from now on. But we'll figure that out next time. So with that being said, see you next time. Bye.